The Hillary Clinton documents released today by Wikileaks make more clear than ever just how much is at stake in this election. So much corruption.
Well, here's what we know. What the Wikileaks dump makes clear is how the sausage is made in politics. And I think it's interesting just on that level. Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us now, CNN senior political analyst and senior editor of The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein. Now, Ron, some of the stuff does not deserve attention. There have been emails that have been manipulated secondarily, not by WikiLeaks necessarily, but an effigy for Arabs that was put out there and said, Hillary Clinton called them this. No, she didn't. It was a translation of a report from somebody else. Now, there is a real email from Brian Fallon talking about getting an update from the DOJ. Put up the email so that people can see it. It's where he says that he got information about a status conference that's coming quickly. This has been used by conservative extreme types to say, aha, collusion with the DOJ. Donald Trump used those words himself. Fair point.
Well, look, I think the first point, I mean, the overriding point, and I think you may have said this already this morning, is there is no what in here that is as important as the how and maybe the why. This is not a journalistic leak. This is a hack almost certainly engineered by Russian intelligence to disrupt the American election. And that is the overriding issue here. And I think, you know, what the Obama administration does to respond is, you know, a critical point in the days ahead. But having said that, you know, this is a kind of an interesting example because it is one in which Brian Fallon is obtaining information from the Justice Department that is publicly available, I believe, at that point, about a judge's hearing having to do with the release of Hillary Clinton's emails, not the underlying investigation of the propriety of the server. Is it inappropriate for the Department of Justice to have that kind of contact with the campaign? You can make a case that it is certainly in a gray area, but it doesn't go nearly as far as the way I think Mr. Trump presents it.
All right, another one. This one comes from John Podesta, and I'll be honest, the way the Trump campaign spun this one, I actually had to read it a couple of times because I thought they had it right, but they don't. Put up this John Podesta email about everyday Americans. This is clever what they did. I know she has begun to hate everyday Americans, but I think we should use it once the first time she says, I'm running for president because you and everyday American. It sounds like he's saying she doesn't like people like you. But that's not what it is. He's talking about the phrase.
Like the phrase.
Now, is this Cuomo liberal spin? No. Look at the text of the email. Use it once. What is he talking about? What would she be using once? It's the phrase. But it's very powerful for people when misconstrued.
Well, yeah, but like you said, this is you're seeing the sausage get made, and for again with a kind of the overriding question of whether we should be amplifying the work of the Russian intelligence service in kind of discussing it to this length, it is fascinating to see their struggle around language on so many fronts. And the phrase that she's trying to get to is the one that I believe Paul Begala coined for Bill Clinton: people who work hard and play by the rules. I mean, that is kind of what what they're trying to find some way to describe, and the kind of the agonies they go through to see how she would speak. You know, it does get to this kind of sense of Hillary Clinton as a politician who is very kind of practiced, who there isn't a lot of spontaneity, there's a lot of planning. She's someone who's very cautious, careful, deliberate, and you know, it does give you that feeling, but beyond that, it really doesn't tell you much except the struggles these campaigns can have sometimes over, you know, very simple language. Well, it can be a very complex process to get there.
What about the leaks of the speeches? Some of the Wall Street speech excerpts are in there that she wants open borders hemispherically, and that she wants completely free trade, and that she wants Wall Street to be consulted about regulation. What do you unpack in those comments?
Well, first, I think the overriding message from those transcripts are really kind of reinforces what we kind of think about Hillary Clinton. She is more a kind of art of the possible politician than a visionary politician. I mean, the overall message of all of those transcripts is that she is someone who is very conscious of the parameters of the possible and how the sausage actually gets made.
What does that mean, parameters of the possible? People hear open borders to mean she wants to make us unsafe. She wants to take away any distinction between us and Mexico.
Right. Well, the open borders phrase is one that really does jump out. By the way, a hemispheric trade zone is something that Bill Clinton proposed. I mean, it was something he started to work on in office. And it does, I think that is the one that is the most kind of jarring departure from where she is publicly, and does suggest, as did the first 20 minutes of the first debate, how difficult a position it is for her to kind of be this anti-trade warrior that she has kind of morphed into in this campaign. But I was saying that kind of the overall message of all of the language in all of the speeches that have been released is she is someone who is, it really is kind of talking about how she thinks you get things done in diplomacy and in government. And it is kind of a grinding process, right? There's not a lot of lift. There's not a lot of inspiration. It really is kind of maneuvering through competing interests and kind of different power centers and what it takes to turn the levers to make something happen. That was what the overriding message I took out. But it is, I think that is the one piece of the speeches that is kind of fascinating for me, because that is somewhere where her husband was. He proposed this publicly, not behind closed doors. This was something that was part of his administration, and it is the kind of idea that she has moved away from.
Ron Brownstein, thank you very much for the analysis as always. So, what do you think?
Thank you.
Tweet us at New Day. You can post a comment if you want on Facebook.com/New Day. Allison.